Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us and welcome to the DWF Serial Showcase. My name is Misty McPhail and I'm a creative producer with the Digital Writers Festival. I've put this event together from here in Western Sydney, which is on Darug land, and I'm excited to hear from our three amazing panellists about writing web series. I'll be here in the background taking your questions from Twitter, so if you have anything you'd like to ask, feel free. Just be sure to use the DWF17 hashtag. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the discussion.
Okay, are we handing over to me then? So my name is Hayley Adams. So I am chairing this live event for you all. So just to start off, I'd just like to acknowledge the First Nations, first storytellers and traditional owners of this land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and to the elders of the lands this broadcast reaches. So next up, we can move on to our content for today. So I'm a web series creator myself, and we have two other amazing web series creators on with us. I won't give you too much background because I feel like they can do a lot of chatting as well to give us a more in-depth portrayal of who they are. But first up, we have Matt. So Matt Blackwell is the one of the writers, the co-creators, and he worked on the amazing and very successful web series Bruce, which is a comedic spin on the convict period in Australia. So potentially a dramatic kind of material, but it's quite a funny series. And then we also have Julie, and Julie Kalsef is the writer, director, producer, many hats as well, as is common with web series, of Starting From Now, which is a 5-season web series. I think they've just announced they've hit 40 million views. So they're going strong over many years. So today we're going to talk about their series as well as my series and the series that we watch and what actually inspired us as well. So I'm a producer and my twin sister and I created web series I Can't Even. She wrote and I produced. So we've kind of been going around in the background and learning more about the online space. So I'm super excited to hear what these creators as well have got, very successful web series of their own, how their experiences have gone in this weird world at the moment where it's kind of the wild, wild west. So before we move on to actually showing you some clips from both our series and what we are going to be talking about, I will go to our first panelist, Matt, and give us a bit of a background on him and his first clip. Go.
Thank you very much. Thanks for letting us be a part of it. It's going to be fun to do. My personal background is I've been writing forever. I used to write short stories in high school and all that sort of stuff. Annoy my teachers with a new story every day, and I just loved writing ever since I could. And then I met this guy at uni like 25 years ago, and he was doing radio comedy. I worked with him for a while on the radio doing comedy show type stuff on 3PBS, the community radio show. And then we got into writing for the Glass House, Good News Week. We did professional joke factory, coming up with stuff, topical stuff at last minute sort of decade or so. And Bruce is the first thing that we've sort of created ourselves, rather than just writing for someone else. So we're super proud of it. And we've been working on that for probably about 10 years now. We started off writing a screenplay for a film, and then we met Tony Rogers from Wilfred, the director. And he was like, well, let's work on a film, but first, have you got any ideas for a series? Because we can get that up quicker. So we said, well, we've got this idea for this convict series, like a shit. And that ended up not being quicker at all. Because here we are 10 years later, we finally got funding. And I think what held us back really was that we wanted to do something done before, really, which was have it played totally straight. Have this big period drama as like the backdrop for these ordinary modern people, who aren't interested that they're in a historical drama. They're just interested in their own personal lives, and their own personal, selfish, petty kind of existences. And so when we went to funding bodies, they weren't really sure what the comedy was. They were, saying, is it like Blackadder, or what is it, Monty Python? What is it? Is it wacky? And we kept on saying, no, it's about the realness. We want it to be as played like a drama. We want the comedy, a lot of the comedy, to come from the clash between the grand historical period drama and just these little selfish people being realistic. So I could probably show a clip so that people who haven't seen the show know what I'm talking about. So I don't know whether that clip is ready, but I'm ready to play it if you're ready to play it.
That's not as bad as
Bruce. What was that? You okay? Bruce, how many fingers am I holding up?
On your right?
What?
No, nothing.
Oh, shit.
Something?
What?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Yes?
well, it's just that you said
What?
I could do the how many fingers?
No, I didn't.
You said I could do the fingers.
Why would I give a shit about who does the bloody fingers?
Well, you sure seem to care about it now, mate.
Okay, fine. You do it.
I don't want to do the fingers.
Okay, knock yourself out.
You've done it, mate. You've already done.
Have me go the bloody fingers, cocksnot.
No, you've done it. You've ruined it. Too little, too late.
Fine.
Too little, too late.
Fine. Attention. I'm doing the fingers.
No. Do the fingers. I'm going to do the fingers, all right?
What? Easy.
Do I have to do the same amount of fingers that you did?
3 fingers.
Thanks, Bruce. Thank you, mate. Ruined the game for everyone.
Gary,
Yes.
how many fingers?
Oh, grown up. Real grown up. Real mature.
It still makes me laugh after all these years. That actually came out of a conversation that we were talking. We had Bruce being horribly flogged and he's unconscious, and we had the idea of someone, are you conscious? Holding up the fingers, and then we're like, well, that's been done so many times. What's an interesting way we can play with that? And I really love how that turned out. Gary is just such an annoying housemate. The whole thing's based on annoying housemates. We wanted it to be like a modern share house drama set in 1788. So that's the history of that. Any more questions? Should I just keep prattling on?
I was going to say, yeah, it's a scene that you can really see and imagine.
Yeah.
Different
Well,
world, and it really takes off with this, oh, it's 17, it's so long ago, but it's a scene you've seen so many times before, but it's fresh again. Exactly.
Yeah. And the focus for us was on the convicts as people rather than historical props. But we felt that Australian history has always been presented with this really kind of whitewashed, po-faced British kind of feel. It's always been about the Marines doing their great land and the settlers and all this kind of stuff that no one I know relates to any of that sort of stuff. Where it's when we think of white Australian history, it's the people who didn't want to be here, who've been stuck here, and they don't care about history or grand nation building or anything like that. It's all just about real people and how irrelevant all that stuff is, because we're all living in his great historical moments right now. We're all doing that. The stories of the future are going to be talking about the present and its grand historical arcs and all that kind of stuff, and none of us are actually featured in that. We're all just living our own little lives, doing our own little things, and so we wanted to really play with that, the realism, the realness of the people. And I think, like I mentioned, I think it was hard to get funding because we'd speak to the ABC, we'd speak to SBS. We're in talks with both of the networks, both of those networks. And none of them were sure how it was going to work. Well, one, I think they thought it was going to be incredibly expensive because period drama we ships and costumes and all that kind of stuff. We ended up doing it for, one of the editors who was working on Bruce said, I've seen more money spent on a 30-second ad than has been spent on this whole series. So, it wasn't the mind-bogglingly expensive thing that I think the ABC and the SBS were thinking it was going to be. So they were scared of that, and they were also scared because they hadn't seen this kind of really straight and dirty, painful and grisly kind of comedy was going to be funny. We got many comments saying, can you make Bruce smarter? Can you make the comedy smarter? The comedy's a bit dumb. It's a bit broad, I think was the term. Bruce was too much of a, he doesn't have any special powers. He doesn't have like a Walter White kind of thing of being able to use his MacGyver powers to get out of situations. He's got nothing. He's just like he's just this big-eyed blonde guy who's got no real qualities, and they didn't like that. They wanted him to be more of a powerful sort of character. But that, I'm really glad that we didn't have to work with the network in the end, because it meant we could absolutely do it how we saw it. And I think having done that, and it seems to be resonating all around the world, like there's all these places that I didn't think that the French would get into Bruce. It's like, it seems to me like a really Australian thing about Australian history, but it's resonated in Spain, in Germany. It's like, it's all round. It's really surprising how much our tiny little historical kind of thing has touched people all around. I was really surprised by it. But it's really cool. It feels really nice to not be limited by length. Like, I really like that about the web series format, is that it's each episode can be different lengths depending on what you've got to say, which I think is a really important thing, because for so long our stories have had to fit into the commercial. It's like you've got half an hour or you've got an hour, and if you've got a 40-minute story, you either have to pad it out or cut it down. Like with this, each episode is whatever length it needs to be. There's no influence, there's no people telling you how to do stuff, which I really like that. As someone who's been writing for other shows for so long, it feels really great to not have to fit someone else's vision, which I think is a really nice thing. The similar sort of vibe, I have just discovered recently this show called Norseman, which was made in Norway, of all places, and it's the only other show that I've found that has the same kind of vibe that we've got, which is of these ordinary, small, selfish, focused little people in this grand historical backdrop. And I was actually watching the series. I mean, the second half of Norseman, I didn't, first half, but I still, the first 3 episodes had me laughing a lot, and I really enjoyed the vibe. And it's really, really quite similar to Bruce, except it's their history, which is the Vikings. So I think I've got a clip of Norseman here somewhere. Go.
Push him out. Farewell, brother. Farewell, brother. Why don't you just let me do it, because No, it's just my hands are very cold, and these arrows are a bit too slippery for my style of shooting. Ridiculous. The left has to be set aflame, or else it won't get to Valhalla. Yes. Give me the ball. No. Just let me do it. No, I'll do it. I'll handle it. He's my brother.
Yeah, so the vibe is really, really similar. But I haven't seen it. It also came out last year as well. So it's interesting. It feels like maybe that's the zeitgeist at the moment. Things that are realism. We want realism. We want dirtiness. We want yeah, real people, not pretense and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I reckon that's me over. To be honest, that's back to you.
I had heard that series before you sent it through, but I found out it was done in English and in Norwegian. Did you know that?
Yeah. What was that? Sorry.
It's in they filmed it in English and in Norwegian, so they did two versions of the entire show.
Yeah. Naturally enough, I've only seen the English version, but yes, I strong episodes. Gets a bit, I don't know, gets a bit nasty, and I don't know. I don't really like the second half, but the first half I thought was good. Anyway, back to you.
I think it just clearly like shows, I guess, the universe that it appeals to everyone, like you were saying with Bruce, but it's clearly showing what they're able to do. I guess like they shot it twice, like they set up twice and they shot it. They knew they were going to have a Norwegian audience and an online, English speaking audience, and to be able to do both those things, like no one on TV is doing that.
Yeah. Well, also that thing of when you make stuff now, it's not just for your own country. It's not just for your own thing, because we're all joined. And so, when we made Bruce, we were making it for Australians to watch and only Australians to watch. And so there's heaps of stuff that is very, it would only resonate with people who share our particular history. So we're all making stuff for a global audience now.
Awesome. Okay, thanks for sharing that. We'll go over to our next panelist or guest, Julie. Take it away.
Thanks, Hayley, and thanks, Matt. Yeah, I'm going to talk about audience as well, but I'll introduce myself first. So, as Hayley said, my name's Julie Kalsef. I'm the writer, director, and one of the producers of Starting From Now, which is an online multi-platform lesbian drama about 4 inner city women who are looking for meaning in their life and are looking for someone to love and are looking to find out who they are. So we've made 5 seasons. We made those 5 seasons across 3 years, 6 episodes per season. And yeah, I'll talk a bit about my background first, and then I'll talk about why I moved into the web series space and what drew me to making a web series. So like Matt, I had always wanted to be a writer, but unlike him, I didn't actually do that. So I grew up wanting to be a writer, but my mother, very wisely perhaps, or not, suggested that that's not a real job, and that I should find something to fall back on. So I found myself becoming, suddenly I'm an English teacher, and I'm working in high school and I'm teaching English, and I'd been doing that for about 4 years. And I had this, one of 2 epiphanies in my whole life, and that was, what am I doing here? And is this how I want to spend the rest of my life? So I realized that I needed to either do something about it and change the direction of my life, or suck it up and just accept that that's what it was going to be. So I quit full-time. I went to part-time teaching. I did a short screenwriting course, and I was like, this is the type of writing I want to do. So I got as many books as I could. I studied, I practiced writing, I applied for AFTRS, and I got into their master's program. So I did a master's of screenwriting at the AFTRS, which I then thought meant that my future was set and laid out in front of me. And when I graduated, expecting someone to hand me a job, I realised that that's not how it works. So I spent the better part of 10 years really trying to find my place in the industry, and doing short stints on shows and writing the whole time, but never quite finding where I fit in, and never quite finding the shows that I wanted to work on. So I was quite frustrated at mainstream media. I was frustrated at Australian television, and that we were just making the same shows over and over. It seems I don't know how many shows we need about white male doctors, but we still continue to make them. And so I got to a stage where I realised this was my second epiphany, and I have yet to have another one since. But my second epiphany was that I needed to start writing the content that I wanted to see. I needed to start writing stuff that I really believed in and cared about. So I decided to write starting from now, and I saw that the online space was a place where diverse voices could be heard, where audiences who weren't getting what they wanted from mainstream were going into the online space to find the content that they needed. So I'd previously worked on another web series called The Newtown Girls, and saw that the audience was out there, and I was part of that audience, so I knew that there was a demand for quality content. And that's why I moved into web series. There are no gatekeepers. There's no one standing in your way saying, no, you can't make that, or no one wants to see it. There's no one, you know, at the networks standing over your shoulder telling you to change things and saying that that's not how it should be. And you can find an audience. You can really engage with an audience, and you can work hard to reach out to them and find them and to build that audience over time. And that was, you know, one of the reasons I wanted to make it. Another reason was that I wanted there to be lesbian content freely available, because when I was growing up, there wasn't any. And I know that if there was, it would have helped me. That I strongly believe in the power of representation on screen, and I feel like the more representation we have, the better, the more it helps people. If we can see ourselves or people like us on screen, it really helps the way, it really helps start conversations, and it really helps people really have the words or have the confidence or realise that they're not alone predominantly. So I'll show you a clip. I've probably talked for too long to start with, so I'll show you a clip of starting from now. This is from episode 1, season 3, which was kind of our breakout season, I think. But I'll show you the clip, and then I'll talk a bit more about it.
Get wicked when we're high. Peel the red. Did I ask you? I get wicked when I think. Every word it keeps. Intellectual, I get wicked.
So that was, am I back on? So that was, as I said, from episode 1, season 3. And that's our highest, that episode has our highest number of views, which is now up to 12 million for that episode alone. So it was always important for me to reach an audience. One, because as I said, I wanted lesbian content online. I wanted people to be able to access it. The other reason was because I wanted to prove to broadcasters that there was an audience, and that people are going online because they're not getting what they want from traditional media. And when you write a web series, when you create a web series, the statistics are there. And Matt and Hayley can attest to this, that you have very clear access to your statistics, and you can then go to a broadcaster and say, this is how many people are watching our show, this is our audience. Which we were then able to do with SBS. So my producing partner, Rosie Lord, and I then took the series to SBS, and seasons 4 and 5 were broadcast on SBS at the beginning of last year. So it was kind of gratifying to be able to go out to prove that there was an audience for it, and then to be able to, then for broadcasters to say, yes, okay, we accept that, and we'll put it on our TVs. But I think one of the mistakes people make is that an audience is easy to find, that if you just put something out there, you know, it's going out to the world, it's global, that you'll find people to watch it. But there's actually a lot of work that goes into finding that audience. And it's something that you know, it's probably for a longer discussion, but it's something that's really important, I think, when you start writing something, is to ask yourself, who is my audience and how are they going to find out that my series exists? Because if you don't put that work in, it doesn't matter how great it is, if no one knows it's out there, no one's going to watch it. Which brings me to my second clip, which is a fantastic series called F to Seventh. And it was this that inspired me, one of the shows that inspired me to make Starting From Now. But it has very few views and it's a fantastic show. So I'll show you the clip and then I'll talk a bit more about it.
Vegetarian, huh?
Yeah.
Well, like I always say, if you don't eat meat, why have teeth? Right?
Well, yeah, I guess I eat fish sometimes.
I bet. Oh, thanks, Liz. Got it, Kate.
How do you know the waitress?
Vegas.
Woo! The fight was good.
Oh, you would have loved it. These two lesbos sat right next to me, making out and all that. You know, I don't have a problem with gays. I just want to see them making out.
I don't want to either.
Oh, well, what? Slow down. You driving all that old to you
Oh,
again?
no, I just don't want to see anybody making out.
Sure you do. You know, these girls were pretty. I don't blame you. They had like tiny waists and tight buns and a terrific set of pointers. Let me tell you, they were unbelievable. Firm, firm, firm.
I'm not really.
Ass lady?
Yeah.
You know, if I were gay, I'd be an ass lady.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
How's Uncle Mike?
You know, Mike, quiet, depressed, girly. Kate Jr. started punching him in the knees.
Really? Huh.
So it's funny. It's a fantastic series. The quality of the guest stars that they had on it was incredible. It launched the career of the creator Ingrid Jungerman, who went on to make a feature film. She had previously made a oh, sorry, my time's gone off. She previously made another web series with her partner, and they both went on to make features. So they clearly talented and made great shows. But if you look at their views, they don't have a lot of viewers. So I think that, you know, it's really important if you are creating a series to know that you need to put in the work and you need to find an audience. And the audiences are out there and they're hungry for diverse content and for fresh voices, but they have to know the series exists.
Yeah, I think that your series is like such a good example of proof that there's an audience, but proof that you need to find them. Because I've followed your stuff and you really, you know where they are and you did all the groundwork before the series even came out, like preemptively trying to find them. And I think lots of people think that, oh, I've got a web series, I'm just gonna like make it and chuck it online and someone will find it. And it's not that simple, because when you're a web series creator, you're like, you got to write it and make it, and then you have to also be the people releasing it as well. So it's like a whole other job. It's one that I'm still trying to wrap my head around, and I think what you've done with Starting From Now like super proves that people are hungry, but there's so many ways to go about finding them. Yeah,
but you make a good point, because once you've done all that work, then it's an extra job, and it's, I mean, you know, as web series creators, we all know that it's exhausting and that there's never enough money, there's never enough time, and there's never enough people. So you need to try and really, I think, from the start, get people around you who can help you out, or else you're going to burn out. And it's you need that help to get it out there and to let people know. But I guess too, it depends on why you're doing it. If you're making it to, you know, as a proof of concept, then great, get it out there and get lots of views. But if you want it to then go to broadcast, you probably want to release it more on a platform that isn't as open like YouTube. So I guess another thing I think to remember when you're writing something is to know why you're doing it and what you're trying to get out of it, and that will inform the decisions you make down the track.
Yeah, that's like one of the main things I talk to people about when they have a web series idea. It's kind of like, yeah, but what do you want to get out of it? Because yeah, as you said, you know, you can make your one is, you know, shoestring budget but you know who your audience is and you're catering to them. You don't need the biggest production values all the time to tell them a story they want to hear. But as you said, if you want to do it to go to TV later down the track, it's going to need to look amazing for people to buy into it. Yeah, different ways of approaching it. Okay, we'll move on to me, I think, next. So yeah, as I said at the beginning, I'm not technically a writer myself, but I work with my twin sister Elise Adams, and we co-created a web series ourselves, and we're going to show you the trailer. But I guess a little backstory, kind of going off what Julie was saying in terms of why you create a series and what you want to get out of it. So my sister and I we're Melbourne based, and we're at the Victorian College of the Arts. I'm like, oh, we're in film school. This is where it's meant to all happen. But it's really not that simple. And we kind of got a year into both our courses and realized, I was producing stuff from other directors that I necessarily wasn't super passionate about. And she was going through and learning to write stuff, but it was never actually going to get made as part of the course because it was either a feature film or a TV series. Like those were the two options that you had. And so she very quickly realized that we didn't have the skills to make a TV show or a movie by ourselves, but we really like the internet, so maybe we could try and make a web series and see what that was like. So we kind of just like, okay, we don't have a lot of experience. We've just gone to, just 1 year of film school. We don't have all the connections yet, so we need to make things super, super simple. And essentially, Elise and I were talking, we're like, okay, I think we can manage 2 people in like 1 room and probably maximum 5 minutes. Not just for like attention spans of people actually watching, but just also in terms of our actual production ability to be able to like maintain that quality for a little bit of time. So I was sort of like, Elise, what can you do with 2 people in 5 minutes? And it was kind of like, oh, that's really hard. Also, we wanted to have, we were kind of like, let's do comedy, let's do women, just, in terms of, I guess, who the audiences that we like would be online and who we would want to see on screen. And so Elise kind of went away and had these weird production constraints on her and came back with our series called, we ended up calling it I Can't Even. So the series is loosely based on our lives, I guess, or our passions. So we're both hardcore, I guess what you call fangirls. Read too many books, watch too many movies, go to Comic-Con, argue about our, favorite Harry Potter character and things like that. So the 2 girls that we wanted in the show were going to be like best friends who basically did that as their day jobs almost. And they lived together, etc. So we've done 1 season, 6 episodes for our first season, and then our second season that came out this year, which is also 6 episodes. And yeah, different, we had multiple directors, we had multiple DOPs, editors, everybody just pulling together to make it actually happen. But I will show you the trailer for the second season now, which is online. It's ready.
I love food. Food and I, on a first name basis. I have on more than one occasion put food under my top, or more accurately down my top.
And M.
Are you planning your Harry Potter themed wedding?
Going to the UK is not that extravagant. Australia has no old castles.
They are best friends.
The only person allowed to insult your PG-13 drawings is me.
This season, romance.
He said he was excited to see me tonight.
You are not DTF. No Darcy, no Twilight, no fanfiction. That is not first date level shit.
I think I'm going to be sick.
Eden, Borio, modern day Romeo and Juliet.
Rivalry.
I didn't even download Game of Thrones. Oh, that's it. That samurai sword is going back tomorrow.
And Edward Cullen.
What? Because he is such a DC fanboy.
2 girls, 1 house, and an infinite number of fandoms to argue about. I Can't Even. Online, June 29.
I think I'm freaking out.
Yeah, a little bit.
Right. So that was my series. I think, are we back on? Yeah, I think so. So that's the trailer for my second season. As you can tell, there's lots of inside joke sort of reference things. So it kind of caters, the idea is that it caters to an online audience very specifically. But I think something that Julie's like starting from now that's done really well is, yeah, really going out and finding that audience. You know, in the writing process, we're like, oh, let's put in a joke about this or a joke about that, that we think, you know, Tumblr or online people would love. But it's actually super hard to try and then like target and find those people, or rather it just, you know, takes a lot of work. So I think there's, when you're writing your series, it's so important to be aware of who that audience is. But like once you know who they are, it still doesn't mean that you can find them. However, if you put in the time and effort, you definitely can, which I think starting from now, and Bruce as well with you guys have had, you know, great luck with getting views and awards and nominations, but it's this weird process online of trying to figure out, yeah, why you're doing it and how you can achieve that goal. And I think for Elise and I, Elise as a writer, one of the, you know, she's extremely proud of what she's able to do with her like limited, you know, experience, I guess, going through it, because, you know, you've got two people and you have to get them to do something in one room that isn't just a fight every single time. So trying to, you know, come up with conflict between the two of them that isn't them, you know, being angry at each other, because they're also best friends. So that was, you know, a great experience in terms of us learning, figuring out, you know, writing, but also then, you know, how that works to give it to a director, how that works to give it to a DOP. And I think web series for us was like the great equalizer in terms of gaining experience. You don't, as you say, you don't have the gatekeepers in terms of notes, but you also don't have the gatekeepers in terms of actual production. Like you can go out and just make it. Our first season, yeah, as in multiple people shooting it and editing it, and production quality goes up and down, but it doesn't mean you can't put it out there. And then the second season for us is an attempt to bring up that production quality a little bit with all the things that we've learned, and continue to apply them. But it's also like, we're not going to hold ourselves back because we can't get the best of the best, because that's what the web series kind of landscape is really for, and how it really benefited us, was just being able to put something out there and show people. You know, writing gets stuck in a bit of a short film world where you spend all this time and money making a short film, and then you put it on a private link and you can't share it with anyone. You can submit it to festivals and you can't send it out for a year. You can't test it. You can't get that audience feedback. So, you know, is this working? And obviously short films, you know, are great experiences, but really testing grounds, I think web series just like leaps down the head of the creators to really like learn more. And so I realized, Julie, that we skipped your inspirational series. Do you want to give a quick backstory on your one as well, or your series that you wanted to show that was kind of, oh, sorry, no, we did talk about it. I just got confused. We did talk about it. We can do mine. So as I said, I am a big fangirl, online nerd and things. And one of the first web series that I saw that really inspired, but also used the format really, really well in terms of cutting down production strains, is a series called The Lizzie Bennet Diaries. So that is, it's a modern day blog adaptation of Pride and Prejudice, which is cleverly out of copyright, so free and available for anybody to recreate. It's a good thing to think about. And they take it into the modern day and actually, retell Lizzie's story as if she was a modern girl blogging to camera, as opposed to, you know, maybe writing a diary. So I'm going to show you like a clip from the first episode. There is over 100 episodes. It came out over a year. So it started in 2012, ended in 2013. Millions of views, but super, super engaging, even though essentially the camera doesn't move. It's just very well edited. So I'll go into that clip now.
Acknowledge that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. My mom gave each of us one of these last Christmas. I have yet to wear it, ever. Who am I? I'm a 24-year-old grad student with a mountain of student loans, living at home and preparing for a career. But to my mom, the only thing that matters is that I'm single. My name is Lizzie Bennet, and this is my life. So my mom belongs to a class of parents I like to call the 2.5 WPF Club. What's the 2.5 WPF Club? It stands for Home with 2.5 Kids and a White Picket Fence. Which I know actually sounds pretty nice, but it's really annoying when it's all your mom talks about 24/7. Not only is my mom a member of the 2.5 WPF Club, she's probably the president. How do I know? Ladies and gentlemen, I present again Exhibit A. Universal truth. Really? I'm sure there are a great number of rich, young, single men who aren't looking for wives. In fact, let's examine the percentages. Sleazeballs and scumbags, incapable of escaping current dead-end relationships, sailing around the world trying to find themselves, focusing on work or skills or hobbies or whatever it is that rich guys do when they're young. But no, according to my mother, every rich single guy is put on this planet to impregnate her daughters. To illustrate my point, I'll need a little help. What are you doing here? This is my friend Charlotte, and she's going to help me with this demo.
Okay, so obviously the clip goes on because it's a longer episode. But yeah, as I said, this is a vlog format, so the camera doesn't have to move. Your sets are very, very limited. They have a couple different bedrooms that they travel throughout, but it's pacey and it's fast and it's fun, and it's also got this like inbuilt audience because it's Pride and Prejudice. So there's all these online Jane Austen fans that are eager for more content. Oh, there's a web series. Oh, there's more episodes. They can keep watching, stay engaged. And that series went on to win like an Emmy for its interactive, web series kind of side. So it won an Emmy, and it launched a whole like production company that continued to make those sorts of web series, and is still kind of a big top leading example of, I guess, what you can do online. So it prods a question that I was kind of wanting to think, ask you guys what you think, whether you see a difference between a web series idea and a TV show idea. Obviously they can be serialized or non-serialized, but if there is a difference that people should be thinking about.
Well, I would say, I mean, my particular situation is that I haven't had a TV for years, 5, 6 years, something like that. And everything I watch is on this little laptop that I'm using right now to do this. So for me, every series is a web series. And I actually found, preparing for this tonight, I found it really, really challenging because I don't know what's the difference now between a web series and a not web series. I was searching for High Life, Australian series. I was searching to find this, to watch it on the net, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And the only thing where I could find anything about it was that it was on Channel 9. And I think to myself, okay, well, if it's on Channel 9, is it still a web series? Your show, Julie, was shown on SBS. Does it suddenly stop being a web series then? It's like the idea of what is a web series and what isn't a web series is really slippery for me. And so I would say, in terms of coming up with ideas for web series or not for web series, doesn't mean anything to me. It's like if you're coming up with a story that you want to tell a certain way, and kind of the destination of that story doesn't really make too much of a difference to me.
Yeah, I agree with Matt. I think this traditional idea of a TV half hour and a TV hour format is slowly eroding. I don't think it's eroding fast enough. It feels like we're still in Australia not willing to make a half hour drama, which I find is a bit restrictive. It feels like, yeah, and Matt makes a good point. If something's on TV, is it still a web series? Like, is Orange is the New Black a web series because it's on Netflix and it's streamed online? Those lines are certainly blurring. And I think if you've got, first of all, think about what your concept is and think about whether it works best as a short film, a feature, or a series. And if it's a series, then I feel like there's that real blur between TV ideas and web series and online ideas because, as Matt said, everything's moving online, and these restrictions about times are starting to fade. When we put we recut seasons 4 and 5 from webisodes into TV half hours to go onto SBS, and they were very good about not worrying about the length. So it didn't have to be a TV half hour. They just said whatever it is, because we know that it wasn't made for this, that's fine. So I feel like that's shifting a bit, and that it's starting to there's more freedom, and ideally it just serves the story, and that's what we want, a place that we want to get to, I think.
Absolutely. And I saw a stat, I saw a report yesterday, I think it just came out yesterday. Where is it? I've got it here somewhere. That 1/3 of Australians between 18 and 24 they go a week between watching broadcast TV. You know, so that's that's a third of people, you know, of important chunk of people, which is only going to get bigger and bigger. Already, you know, people are just not watching network TV. There was another stat that I found. In 2012, there were 107 episodes of web content made in Australia. In 2016, there were 3,248. So, you know, just the amount of web content, you know, it's enormous. It's enormous, and people that's where people are watching. You know, people don't want to be told when to watch stuff and told that the only things they can watch are cooking shows and people getting married or whatever is on network TV. I don't actually know, but you know.
Yeah, I'm very similar to you, Matt. Like, I don't. I live with my sister. When we moved in, we didn't connect our TV. Like, we have a TV in the living room that is connected to the internet. That's how we watch everything, and it's only every now and again that we're at our parents' house or something that we actually watch television. We live on the street that the block was on this year, and that was how we kept in touch with what was potentially happening on TV. We saw it on our street. But in terms of what was actually happening, it was so disconnected. And I think it does mean that in a way, TV and web is just blurring to the point where, yeah, as you say, like, is a Netflix show a web series? Is a YouTube show a TV channel? You know, like, can you put up TV shows on YouTube? And, you know, to that degree, I've seen stuff with Stan, Australia's streaming platform, but they're very much like, we make TV. There's this weird distinction where they want to be seen. They don't want to be seen like, you know, down, oh, that's online content. They're not as good. They're saying we're television, but it's only available on streaming. It's only available to watch online. And I think that this weird blurry line kind of is confusing for everyone, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I just came back from our 2 weeks of going to get awards in other countries and stuff that I wasn't a part of. But anyway, he came back saying that over there they don't like the word web series, that they prefer to call it a digital, which is just as bad as web, but whatever, you know, it's just as meaningless a term as web series. You might as well call it web series because that's the term that we use now. You know, it feels like the word web series is going to expand and expand to just mean a show that you watch, you know, in a serialized format, right? Something that isn't a movie or a reality, you know.
But even like the movies, there's a web series, a movie, web series, TV show that, like, there's this sort out structure now of 6 10-minute episodes, or one, you know, hour-long to 90-minute cut. Like, it can be pulled apart and put back together. And so I actually have a question here from Natalie. If you're listening on and you want to go and tweet us a question, it's #DWF17. And Natalie asked, as writers, what advantages does serialized or episodic storytelling have over more traditional long-form stories? So yeah, as I said, some web series are constructed as, you know, big long pieces. They're episodic. They can be recut. How do you deal with that when you're writing?
I think the advantages with episodic and a series is that you've got more time to develop the characters and more time to develop the story arcs. If it's a feature, it goes for 90 minutes. That's the end of the story. You pretty much have to wrap it up unless you know, got a huge financing and you know you're making a trilogy. But serialized content means you can develop the characters, and we're starting from now you know, we were only going to make one season, and then it just kind of went from there. It's a long story, it snowballed, and across the 5 seasons, we were able to really develop those characters and the storylines to the point where, and through the interaction with the audience, really take on board what they were saying, to the point where we changed the ending of season 5 in response to audience feedback. So the advantage with episodic is that you can develop characters and stories, but also the advantage of an online series is that you can interact with an audience. And as a creator, having that immediate feedback is sometimes scary, but it's also invaluable because you know what your audience is responding to, and you don't get that when you put out a feature. You don't get that when you make a traditional TV series for broadcast.
I think that's also it's really nice to be able to change your mind. You know, with a movie, it's all there. But with a series, if you go, actually, that character's really good. That character is really, really good. We want to keep that. Like with Breaking Bad, for instance, you know, that Jesse character was going to be killed off really early. With Dexter, the LaGuerta character was going to be killed off really early, and yet they ended up lasting for seasons and seasons because they're actually really, that's where the story is. And so you can actually serve the story better by having an episodic, long form sort of thing, because, you know, that thing could, in the end, could be 6 hours long. And, you know, you've had that much time to grow and change and see things that you didn't initially come up with when you first came up with the idea. You know, you don't know what's going to work and what isn't going to work. So you give you more flexibility to be able to tell a better story.
Yeah, I think when we were making our series as well, ours is quite episodic, especially the first season. And the second season, because there was this weird like online trend of, you know, people have terrible attention spans and they don't want to watch stuff. Nobody's watching long form anymore. Like, oh, let's make it short and episodic. And the first season is very like you can watch any episode, and that was great because it meant you could send a Harry Potter episode to someone who we knew liked Harry Potter, but they didn't need to watch our Twilight episode or something like that, and they could jump in and out, and that was good. But the second season, not so much a narrative thing, but we had this. There was like a shift, I guess, online. But there was all these weird blurry lines between web series and TV shows, where actually like binge viewing was more and more popular, and so people want something to pull them through. So in our story, you know, structurally, it was more about the friendship between the two girls. So by the end of the second season, you're really figuring out, you know, why are these girls actually friends, kind of thing. And it's not super strong narratively like your series, but we did actually see that pivot, that like people did want to keep watching and binging and having a reason to come back. Like attention spans are dwindling massively, but at the same time, if you get someone to watch one episode, they kind of want to keep watching. Sometimes, I don't know, it works differently for different series.
Yeah, well, there's people who are saying it's dwindling, but then there's people who are watching more in one sitting than they ever did before, you know. So I don't know whether that thing about attention span dwindling, there was just a lot of shit.
Yeah, I agree. I think because when we made Starting From Now, everyone was saying that drama wouldn't work online and that only comedy would work because it's shareable. And as you said, you have those standalone episodes. You don't have to watch them in order. You don't have to, you know, sit there and know the story from the beginning. But that's clearly not the case. And it's because audiences aren't being served and they're going online to find the content that they're not getting in mainstream media. And so the potential there is huge, and it is changing. And I know we're going to talk about this a bit later, but I feel like attention spans are that's I mean, who knows? The thing is that the ground is shifting all the time. For people to give these hard and fast rules like drama won't work or people won't watch anything longer than 5 minutes, how do they know? Like there are no rules. We're making up the rules as we go, and that's why it's so exciting, and that's why, you know, you need to just keep trying new things and seeing if they work. And if they don't, then go on to try something else.
Well, you kind of touch on a question a little bit there that we've got coming in from Jono. He's got a couple of questions for us. I'm going to try and tie them all together. So firstly, do web series need to start from somewhere personal? And do they always have to have a message? Any sort of advice for aspiring web series creators? What do you think?
Well, I don't know what the message of Bruce is. I think every story needs to have a connection to the people watching it. I mean, it needs to matter, but it doesn't need to be personal. I mean, Bruce is not about any of us who wrote Bruce. Bruce is about, you know, life. Hopefully it's larger than just ourselves. You know, it's I don't feel like it needs to always come from a personal place, but it needs to be something you're passionate about. So, you know, then if you're, I guess there's a big crossover with those Venn diagrams of passion.
Yeah, I would say you might only want to think about it being personal in terms of, often with web series you don't have like somebody bankrolling you like maybe you would on TV or film, so you need to have that passion to keep making it. So you might want it to be personal because it needs to feel like there's a point. But it's more like, yeah, as you said, it needs to connect to the audience that you want.
Yeah, I agree. I think connection with the audience is paramount, and it's the same with any piece of writing. The dramatic principles of writing apply across a web series as they do across a feature and a short film. It's about, you know, three-dimensional characters with a goal, conflict. It's all of those things that you learn through screenwriting. That's what works in a series, and that's what gets an audience in. And I feel like as a creator, it doesn't have to be personal and it doesn't have to have a message, but if it's well written and if it's well written, and as a writer you're putting yourself on the page anyway, it's going to come from, there's going to be something personal in there, and there's going to be a message somewhere in there, but you don't want to be didactic about it. You want to entertain, and you want to write something that people can engage with, and through that people will find a message. And my advice would be to write stuff that you believe in, just trust your own voice, I think, and trust that there's an audience out there that is underserviced and that is looking for new content.
Absolutely, and persistence. Not giving up when it's a bit difficult, because it is going to be difficult, and you need to push through that, because I think giving up guarantees that it will fail, and not giving up doesn't guarantee that it will succeed, but if there's a possibility for it, you know, just keep on, yeah, keep trying.
Well, Natalie is asking as well what we might think some of the major barriers are for people with successful web series. We kind of touched on before that, you know, anybody can make one. You don't have to have the highest production values, etc., etc. So, you know, in many ways, you're clearing some of the barriers because you don't have to deal with so many people actually make your stuff. But there are things along the way that are going to stop you. Things that you might have come across and how you overcame them.
Sure. Yeah, I think the barriers are the same with making anything. I guess you're never going to have enough money, and you're never going to have enough time. And as Matt said, if you give up, then that's a guarantee that it's not going to work. And so it's about really backing yourself and really just putting yourself on the line and doing it. You know, like I can't count how many people say to me, if I write a script, will you read it? And I'm like, yeah, sure, because I know they're not going to write it, because there's so many people who want to be writers and who are going to do this and they're going to do that, but there's very few that actually get in and do it. And because it's challenging, and you're putting yourself out there, and as a writer in any type of media, you are putting yourself on the page. You're putting yourself out there to be criticised, and online it's immediate criticism. So it's tough, and one of the barriers, I think, is yourself, and it's not really believing in yourself and taking that leap. And that goes across any type of filmmaker or any creative endeavour, and it's something that I think really it's something that took me a long time to get over, and I feel like everyone's journey is on their own journey, but it really, you've got to really believe in yourself.
Yeah, I think yeah, believing in yourself is kind of the problem for so many people. I would suggest finding someone who is going to push you to, you know, hold you accountable. For Elise and I work together, so she doesn't feel like writing something, I'm standing there saying, but we want to make this. And when I'm saying, oh my gosh, this is so hard. Our DOP is not available on all of the dates that our cast is. She's saying, oh, but I wrote this. Like, don't you want it to make, we need to make it happen. I think it's, as with all creative things, finding people to help you push and actually get it out there is half the struggle. And that's with, film and TV and web. But I think just luckily with web series, there's so many other barriers that are out of your way, that you don't have to worry about them. You chose to make this, and you've got the gear, and most people can source people and make friends that'll help out.
Yeah, I think finding the audience is, as Julie says, is super important. It's all very well to make something. The biggest obstacle is how do you get that into the eyes of the people who want to see it? Because the people there, they want to see it, and then there's the thing you've made, and they've got to find each other in the billions of people. There's billions of people. So that's a massive barrier, but not insurmountable. It's probably easier than it ever has been. Which is to say, it's still really hard.
Yeah, I think one thing that I said to myself many times was, this is meant to be difficult. Because if it wasn't, everybody would be doing it. As you said, Julie, like, yeah, I'll read your script, because you know that half the people are not going to do it.
I shouldn't have said that, because I don't want to read a lot of scripts. But
just double checking our wrap up time. We're getting close. We are going to talk briefly about the future of web series. So we've all picked the series that we think looking ahead is something to really, or they're smart, they're ahead of the curve. Matt, do you want to go first with your series?
Well, look, as I said, I know very little about web series because to me it's all a confusing blur. But I did notice that Bruce is number 3 in the web series World Cup, which is something to do with nominations and awards and something like that. But number 1 is a show called High Life, which is made by Australians. And I watched it all today. I found it some dodgy site where, I don't know, you're not meant to watch it on. But anyway, I found it and I watched it and I thought it was great. And it is actually, it feels like it's worth all its awards. It's been nominated for so much stuff and it's been awarded so much stuff, and it's fucking awesome. So I've got a trailer for that. Go.
She used to have this nightmare where she was lost, abandoned, trying to find some party where everyone was invited, except her. But just maybe, she was the party.
Genevieve, why are you standing?
I feel like standing.
How do you feel about ice cream?
Okay. Can we see that come in? Oh, nice. That's it outside now.
Here she was. Here she is.
I was walking up and everyone is so disappointed.
I'm not sick. Yeah. This is not you. Hello?
Andrew?
What happened?
There is no morality that me.
Okay. The world isn't supposed to fucking playground.
Yeah, so that's that. It's really good. It's each episode is really short, and the whole thing doesn't go for very long, but it's super powerful, looks amazing, and I reckon well worth checking out. And go Aussie, go!
Yeah, I like you. I missed its original round of screening because it was on what channel? It was funded by an actual channel.
It ended up being on Channel 9's online branch. So then I question whether or not it's a web series. I don't know, but it's Australian and it's award-winning and it's really good.
Great. Yeah, I think at some point it's got to become available again, and you don't have to find it in a dodgy way. But yeah, it's one of those. It's the same thing. It's like, okay, is it a web series? Is it a TV show? I mean, yeah, who knows? But as you said, it's great storytelling in it, and it got out there and it worked. What about you, Julie? What is your series?
Mine is an online series called Anna, and as I was saying before, it feels like everything's in flux and that the ground's shifting and things are changing. And this show is, you know, this isn't a new concept. It's based on like a choose your own adventure type thing, which we used to have as books even when I was a kid. So it's not a new concept, but it's the first time I've seen it used online in a web series. So this series, you watch an episode, and then at the end of the episode, you can choose whether you watch A or B. So you watch episode 1, and then you can watch either 2A or 2B, depending on which question it asks you a question about what you would do in that situation. So you choose whatever your answer is, you choose that episode, and then it takes you along. So I thought that was really interesting and a really interesting way of using the medium, and something I haven't seen. And it just kind of reminds me that things are changing and shifting, and we need to just try different things and see how they work. So I'll show you the clip from this.
¿Quién es? Es mi novia que está acá. ¿Y quién es esta? Sacarla. Es la novia. Está acá. Yo te veo si me sacas a mí también.
So then you get to choose what you would do in that circumstance, and then that, you know, you're kind of making the story yourself. As you can see, it's low production values. It's not expensive to make, but it's smart, and I think that's what I think that's what is rewarded online. It doesn't have to be expensive. People will forgive a lot of things, but they won't forgive bad sound. They'll forgive a lot of things, but you need to be smart, and people have seen a lot, so you need to try and find new ways of showing new things in new and exciting ways, I think.
Yeah,
I think what you're saying. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was gonna say I'd never heard of the series until you sent it through, and I had to like quick Google and stuff. And it's interesting. I'm assuming the videos, except for the first one, are like private or unlisted. Is that how they get the tech? You know, that you can click one and then click the next one? Because the first episode was the only one I could see, and then I was like, oh.
Well, you can only watch it on their website, I think. I think that's how they control. Because I was actually a judge in a web series festival, and you had to, usually they upload it, but you had to go to their website and watch this. So I think that's how they do it.
What were you going to say, Matt?
I was going to say that I think what you said about being smart, it doesn't have to be expensive. You just got to be smart. Like all our bush scenes of Bruce were filmed in this tiny little bit of bush. Like there's a footy field there and a golf course there in Ivanhoe. It's about being smart. I mean, you don't have to spend a lot of money to, you know, it's like you can do a lot of stuff super cheap if you're, like you say, if you're smart about it.
Yeah, there's there's so many workarounds. Really, production value, like reading a script, you know, and actually translating it. If you get some smart people on board, you can make it work. My series is, in a way, similar to Julie in that, it uses the format and, you know, tries to think and be smart about it, I guess. It's called The Westbury Fairy. It's also an Australian show, so it's Australian Canada co-pro. It is. They refer to it as an alternate reality storytelling game. So it's this weird sort of amalgamation of things where they had videos on YouTube, they had like a website, and they had fictional writing platforms as well that they used. But essentially, it was them trying to find the Westbury Fairy, and it was like a treasure hunt. And then users also entered and added to the mythology through like fictional writing, and so it was kind of like generated by multiple people at once, or thousands of people. But we're just going to show you like one of the kickoff videos, which is a very slick, high production video that starts. It's a cut down or a version of the Westbury Fairy video that was put online first, and then I'll give you a bit more explanation.
What I'm about to show you is going to blow your mind. Something you never could have imagined was real, but it is.
My name is Arthur Beck. I am a scholar. I am also the world's leading expert in fairies. I've been in possession of artifacts which prove that fairies live among us. The evidence contained in this box is extraordinary.
Oh, should we show them the tea caddy?
No, don't. Not yet. Not until we know who we can trust.
Granddad spent his entire life trying to prove the existence of fairies. He's been ridiculed, kicked out of academic circles, had his research shut down. We have to help him unravel this mystery. If you can figure out how all these pieces of evidence fit together, then please tell us.
Yeah, so that series is tricky to understand in a way, but yeah, essentially entirely dependent on audience interaction. So it is asking them to get in, find clues, create story, engage in Instagram, social media posts, everything to build the story. So completely, couldn't be a TV show, couldn't be a movie. And they had lots of different videos, doco style stuff, viral video style stuff that helped launch it. Just really outside of the box, and probably an approach to writing that could not have existed without it. Which is it's a great series, and they did have, not only was its actual series, I guess a bit mind-boggling in the way they made it. It was also made by Australians and Canadians. Sharing the load of things as well, which is something that about the internet nowadays as well. So it really plays with your mind and trying to figure out where that theory came from, and then trying to execute it as well. So before we wrap up and come to a close, or almost running out of time, just thought, anybody have any sort of closing remarks or things that they didn't get to say, or that they might want to end on?
I guess, if this is for an emerging writers festival, I guess what I would just say to people is to just start doing it, just start writing and start making things and putting them out there, because that's how you learn, and that's how you find your voice, and that's how you develop your craft. And it's not going to happen when you're sitting back thinking about it, or even reading about it. It's about getting in there and doing it, seeing what works, seeing what people respond to. And that's a journey, and takes some time to do. And so do it now and start finding people to work with and getting stuff out there and just seeing what happens.
Yeah, and being prepared for it to take a long, long time. Like Bruce took 10 years to get funding. We were talking with the ABC and they were going to fund it, and then all the people who were going to fund it left. And we had to start again. We were talking to the SBS, and then everyone left. The guy who funded us last time, Mike Callop, he's left Screen Australia now. So just things can take forever, and that's not a reason to not do it, because it just does take a long time to be good at writing. You need to keep writing. Get good at making a show, you need to find the people who are things take experience and time. To make anything worthwhile, it just takes a fuckload of time.
Yep, very much. Be prepared to put as much time and effort as humanly possible.
Yeah.
Because everybody wants to, there's so many people out there who want to do that you have to do this, you have to do it again. I'll also end, I should also mention that if you're Melbourne-based, which obviously is Digital Writers Festival, so it could be anywhere, but if you are Melbourne-based and interested in getting involved or meeting some online creators, I host a monthly web series meetup where we screen 3 series from Melbourne generally, because we have the actual creators at the event to talk about how they do it. It's called Web Series IRL. You can look up on Facebook. It's on, we have a website, etc. But it's a great way of actually coming and chatting, seeing a series maybe that you've never heard of, because there's so many out there, but also talking to creators and being like, how did you do this? Where did you get your inspiration? And also, hi, I'd really like to make something. Can I help you? What should I be doing? Who should I be talking to? Because I think, online stuff, obviously, as we're doing right now, is amazing to talk to people online, but when you make something, you need to have people in person to help you half the time. You can't do everything on your own. So, Web Series IRL, it's in Melbourne every month. Look, sorry if you're Sydney or Brisbane or all over the world. But otherwise, thank you very much to our hosts, Matt and Julie. Thank you so much. And thank you to the Digital Writers Festival for asking us onto this channel and facilitating everything. There'll be links provided and, a recording of this as well that you can watch back. Get into it. I hope that we inspired you to go out and make your own web series. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot.